All right, we're going to get started, but first, buddy, hit us with the beats.
You got it. We are sitting poolside in Bali, and we're talking all things Brooklyn Nets Media Day, covering all of Kyrie, KD, Coach Atkinson, and Sean Marks, and also taking a look at that sweet new court in Brooklyn.
All right, welcome back to the We Got Nets podcast. And this day, I fucked it up. Here we go again. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to We Got Nets, a podcast all about Brooklyn's finest basketball team. Here are your hosts, Adam Armbrecht and Doug Norrie.
All right, welcome back to the We Got Nets podcast on the Overtime Media Network, broadcasting live from the Vivid Seats Lounge, which right now is in Bali, Indonesia, as we sit poolside. And if you are with us on our YouTube channel, you'll see that we are sitting in our villa, doing a little Nets talk from here. I don't know about you, you seem like you're already sweating pretty bad. We didn't do it in the AC inside, but this is why the sound is going to be a little bit more outside-y feel. How are you feeling about doing it live from literally the other side of the globe?
We're going to go all natural on this one, I think. And yeah, you're going to probably see by the end of this one that I've soaked through the shirt that I'm wearing, but that's okay, because Bali is just a nice little laid-back atmosphere to podcast from.
The Spencer Dinwiddie digital token came and went as fast as...
And I was on that. I wanted to be on that train. You explained it to me so well last podcast. I was ready for it, but the NBA shot that down.
Went faster than some altcoins, like like your Dogecoin and your Hello Kitty coin and all that other stuff. The Dinwiddie coin never even took hold. We can talk about that. There's no better time to be a fan of the NBA because everyone comes into the media day in the quote best shape of their lives. They've all worked really hard in the off season. They've all added to their game. They're all really excited about the season.
It's actually a lot better than I've ever been.
It's just like everyone just gets the talking point, just does the talking point bullet points. But the Nets do have an interesting media day here because they are walking into a season really unlike any other for them, and really actually unlike any other in the general scope of the NBA right now.
And start with KD because for the most part, there's not a lot of exciting sound bites coming from him. He really, I think, like you've heard a lot of players around the league, a lot of GMs around the league have said, from afar, watching the Nets, Sean Marks, Kenny Atkinson, and even the roster that they've had over the last few years, it's something impressive to watch, right? They work a strong system, they like the way everyone works for each other, and they also love the balance that the organization offers to their team. Everybody on that roster loves playing for Brooklyn. And Sean Marks had already answered that question, so KD was just very casual, as I think KD is. He just said, yeah, Sean Marks said, there's no plan for me to come back. That's what it is. If Sean Marks has something to say about me, you can guarantee that's because we've sat down and talked about it, and now he's just communicating it. So I think there's definitely a comfort level already for KD, and that has to feel great from a Nets fan standpoint and just for himself and the team overall.
You know, like things are always going to start in new relationships. New relationships always start perfectly. It's like you can never. Sometimes at the end of a relationship, you can never figure out like what it was like at the beginning. Well, it's always why relationships always say, "Why can't it go back to the way it was?" Because that's usually like the first 6 days you were together, and then whatever. I said, sometimes like it lasts a lifetime, and sometimes you break up amid turmoil and whatever else. But like this is just how relationships are, and so it makes sense to me that everyone would feel good about everything now. And I have to be honest with you, I do wait a little bated breath with a guy like KD because more stuff that's come out about him, sort of like his tenure in Golden State and just the general not malaise, that's the wrong word, his general unhappiness. Mm-hmm. He was unhappy sort of at the end in OKC. He was unhappy at the end in Golden State. And there was extenuating circumstances behind that. Although I will say even pre-injury, there was plenty of speculation that he was not coming back to Golden State. And they kind of said that he wasn't going to. So that's my only little trepidation around the new exciting thing. I love the KDs here. I do think it will be interesting later in the season if they really do agree on whether the timetable lines up between the two of them or the whole organization and KD to come back. I think that could be an interesting subplot because players just want to play. Yeah. Durant wants to play. And there could come a time where he feels like he is ready and the organization doesn't. We don't need to project tea leaves on that. What about Kyrie though?
Yeah.
I know the Kyrie one, but I found it to be interesting. I know you found it really interesting too. I think from a player standpoint, I was most interested to hear what he would just say about his Celtics time because that was just one of these things that just everyone was kind of wondering about like what was going on with the Celtics. What did you take from the Kyrie announcement?
I'll thread it across just real quickly from KD. One of the things that Kyrie does mention in his media day, discussing with some of the questions going on around KD and his return, like you were just talking about, he said, Kyrie came right out and said he's going to be a protector of KD. Now, everyone can have speculation about what went on in Golden State and some of these players.
Do you think that's weird?
That arguably the second best player on the team is going to be a protector of like the superstar.
That's so weird. I think.
Yeah, but so follow my. But I will say I think that you could tell from the media day because Kyrie was willing to engage with the questions. I think Kyrie kind of likes the spotlight. He likes that he's come back to his home area and he gets to be kind of the leader of this team. And I think KD likes the fact that Kyrie wants to be that guy because I don't think KD wants to engage the media in the traditional sense. I think he likes doing things on Instagram. He has the boardroom. I think he has a lot of product that he's interested in, but he wants to do it on his terms. Where I think Kyrie is very willing to dive into some of the details and to be expansive on responses to things. He was much more open about how he felt about this opportunity. He expressed that over 8 years in the league, he's learned a lot, not just about becoming a better basketball player, maybe becoming a bit more of a leader inside the locker room. He's also learned about the business side of things and the balance between who you are on the court for an organization and then who you are as an individual. This is almost a verbatim quote from him. "We are humans first, players second. They reached out to my family the moment I committed, and he loves the family atmosphere." So he really appreciated the way Brooklyn approached recruiting him to come join. And he even said as well, he reached out to Brooklyn directly as soon as free agency started and said, I have a high level of interest in coming and joining you. So I do think that there's a level of comfort for him here. To your Boston point, he even acknowledged that after stating publicly he wanted to come back to Boston if they were willing to have him. Following that, he went through the loss of his grandfather. I can imagine that's a difficult time personally for anybody. He said he acknowledged that he dealt with a little bit of depression around that, and also the reality of how people treat you in and around things that may be going on in your personal life. So people inside of his circle and outside of it from the organization were pushing him to come back. He did come back and play, but ultimately I think he took that as a hurtful regard for what was something that was deeply personal for him.
I mean, that does, I will say, that explains a lot around if that's indeed what is the truth. And there's no reason to suspect it's not. It's kind of news. Like, no one really suspected this was any piece of it, this grandfather piece. This kind of comes out now that this might have been the break. And this has happened with players in the past. It's like, this happened with LeBron in like 2010, I think was the final. It was the one where they lost to the Celtics and it just clearly was something wrong with him. And no one's ever gotten to the bottom of like what exactly was going on with him.
Right.
Guys can just have things happen to him, and if you're emotionally disconnected in a way because like you don't like what the organization has brought on an emotional level to you, or just hurt, it kind of does make sense that you would begin distancing yourself from that. Mm-hmm. That being said, there's some basketball concerns too, and you don't want this kind of thing to rear its ugly head again. I don't suspect it will be, but you never know. This guy, fragile is the wrong word because and I'm not equating the fragility around a death of a family member to be something that should affect you. Look, everyone's here lost family members, that should affect you. But he also has it seems like he's had fragility in the past around his situations as well. Like he wanted out of Cleveland at the time, and he admitted it later. I mean, the guy's really great at admitting what's happened. Like he wanted to get out of the shadow of LeBron.
And that's something he actually said too as well, that he reached out following his time in Boston, and he reached out, and that was a public thing in terms of LeBron James, that he reached out and apologized to him about what it meant to be the leader of a team. He actually said he reached out to some other players as well. So
I get it, and it's cool, and mea culpas are all great, and it's great to learn from it, and that probably helps moving forward in your ability to handle situations. And now we just have a few examples of where things have gone wrong, and it's been that you haven't been able to reconcile it.
Mm-hmm. And you've seen this a little bit more around sports in general. I think that a lot of athletes are starting to assert a little bit more of the mindset of, I totally understand that I'm being paid to do a specific job, but at the same time, I am an individual. And not even from the standpoint of that everyone needs to be treated as a special and unique case unto themselves, but just that I am a person. You could have a conversation with me about thinking that you want me to come back from an injury or that there's certain expectations for me without it being, that's the only thing I want to talk to you about. And I think for some players, and specifically for Kyrie, I think that's what it is. He wants to have that sense that he is cared about as a human being. And maybe, when we first talked about him coming here, KD, all this speculation, back then I said, I'm happy to have Kyrie here. But we had a couple of goofs about him, a couple of laughs about him as a person and some of his quirks. At the same time, I also have started thinking about it when I look at athletes and say, right, these are guys that are coming into a professional career that is in a media spotlight at 20, 21, 22 years old. If I think about times in my life, whether it was the death of someone close to me or just where I was having a hard time figuring something out for myself, I could easily see the way I might react to someone or someone asking me a question about business or work, but my response is totally based on a personal thing that I'm going through. So I definitely, I'm taking this, not that you're not, you said you're taking it to heart as well, but I'm really taking this at face value, and I honestly think that Kyrie, as far as a mental, personal health standpoint, I think that he's feeling as good and healthy and comfortable as he possibly can in this situation, closer to his family, with an organization that, like you said, at least at the start, is showing and saying all the right things to him, and hopefully going forward.
Well, hopefully, because if it wasn't, you'd be really worried.
Well, right.
It's like,
yeah.
like
if
every
they came out with, but the only problem I have is Sean just told me that if I'm not on the court for 82 straight games, we're gonna have a real bugaboo.
I noticed she was like in a super bad mood like in the morning, and is she always like that? Like, because I'm starting to really kind of feel worried about this. No, but again, like I'm not. This is just what it is. They should say all the right things. The anything you can get beyond just your NBA sort of 101 talking points, which is what I would call I'm in the best shape of my life. This is so great. I'm so excited. Gonna have a great year. Anything you get beyond that, I actually do think is good because it's showing a certain level of trust in your situation, like your trust to be yourself. So it's all good. This is all good. I didn't expect anything bad from media today. I will say at least Kyrie went to the next level, and again, that is good too. And I still just sit with a little pins and needles with these guys because we have multiple situations with these superstar mentalities that just things don't work out. And by the way, maybe we should just get used to this because just about everybody has had a superstar. If you've had I'm trying to think of a team that's had a superstar on their team that hasn't had to sit on pins and needles with them, wondering if they were going to come back or not, outside of Golden State. Like Golden State with Steph, and I guess I'll throw Draymond and Clay in there. They have not had to worry, and they still had to worry about KD. OKC with KD and Russ.
Dirk Nowitzki.
Dirk has stayed around, and Duncan, but these guys are old school. Like these that's from the old guard. Like Cavs with LeBron, Pelicans with AD. The list goes on. OKC with Russ and Durant and
the age of it's happening quicker for these players. Like you can always see guys that later in their career maybe say they're looking to quote unquote chase a ring and they want to move on from something. But it seems like AD is the perfect example, right? Where he, in a very early age in his career, made the decision that I'm done with this organization. This organization can't get me where I want to go.
Like you run down the list of teams, like I'm just looking at them now, you either stink and don't have the superstars, or you've had this sort of like wonder about your superstar, except for like Dame Lillard.
I was about to say, I was going to say Portland.
Dame Lillard in Portland's like really the only one, and they've won probably enough for him to feel happy, and he just seems to like it, and that guy just seems like he's got it completely together when it comes to what he wants and like sort of like understanding his own value. So maybe this just is the thing. Like this is just the thing. Like you have superstars, you just need to kind of keep them happy, and I'm of the mind you have to treat superstars differently. Like that should be organizational 101. Like Lance Thomas and Kyrie should not be treated the same. Yeah, Kyrie leaves, Horford leaves, and maybe the writing was on the wall with that team, and maybe I guess mostly just to maybe put a bow on this. I thought there'd be like some hero ball stuff, and I'm kind of coming around that I'm not sure that's going to be the case, at least to start the season. And I do think, just to kind of wrap that back around too, I do think Atkinson and Marks are kind of equipped to say, look, you came here, you knew what was going to happen, this is the style we want to play, and if you need to make some adjustments how you play, that's kind of on you. Like you chose here, so because you chose here, we can actually kind of dictate some of the rules around this. I don't mean the rules, but like the style too. And you kind of need to be okay with it because again, you chose us. You knew what we were about. Like it's like when Chappelle said when Chappelle said people were getting mad at him for his special. He said, "You saw my face and you clicked on the special." Like I don't think
you hit play, friends.
At that point, like what do you really want me to do? Like basketball style is almost as much a part of the game now as anything else between the uniforms, the jerseys. And now like just the overall court and like the logos and everything like. The style has fans engaging almost as much as like arguably more than X's and O's.
Pre and post game fashion from the players.
That's what I mean. Like
Harden and Russell came out about like, yeah, game on. We'll see who wears it best. Like,
Right.
they're like, and it is, and I think you're 100% right. It's engaging a different group of individual, fan bases that may not normally check in with the NBA, or they do, but not as often. And I think this is phenomenal. I think every NBA team should be doing something a little bit unique or a little bit different with their court, because when you walk into Barclays Center now, I don't know. I mean, listen, if you haven't seen it, it's basically a light gray tone. It still has that same wood grain pattern that they had in the seasons past. The lanes are now a deep, dark gray wood. The Barclays Center is labeled on both sides of the court in a powder blue. I mean, it just catches the eye. It's and it pops the way the logo sits in the center of the court too.
Right. Well, look, Adam's background is designed more in a way if you're watching us on YouTube, this beautiful banner that's behind us, this didn't just appear from Fiverr. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't just get on Fiverr.com and have someone send this over. This is all Adam. Like, all the artwork for the show, all the Instagram stuff, all that stuff is all Adam. So I trust his opinion. I think it looks cool, but like I also bought that ridiculous Nets hat and thought that was gonna look cool on
Yeah,
it.
just swing and a miss.
That was a real unfortunate purchase. So
I think the aesthetics are beautiful. To keep it simple.
But again, like this is the new NBA. This is like, hey, look, you can actually get away with a lot of stuff. The Nets aren't a perfect example of this anymore, but you can get away with a lot of stuff even if your team isn't all that good. Like if you're able to engage fans on this kind of level and understand this kind of stuff, you will, and it helps that Brooklyn's part of New York, and Brooklyn kind of has connotations around it about like just like the setting and what's like been known for in the past and what it's known for now, that are going to sort of help with a historical level. But every place has like a local feel, and I do think the smart teams are beginning to understand this and say, hey, guess what? Our players, if we've learned nothing over the last 2 years, these guys aren't going to be around long.
Right.
Like these guys, don't get too used to these guys. Because the way the league works now is we're just going to kind of maybe just cycling them more than we ever have. There's going to be more turnover. But if you can engage with our product and our logos and just like what we are as a team, then we're going to have better fan retention, like less churn.
Get used to the brand. You can get used to the brand. You can get behind Brooklyn Nets as a brand.
100%. That's why these Nets fans are crazy. Like good in a good way about the Nets right now because they have associated with the brand. Now look, they did everything correct beforehand, but this team has been a brand.
It's like a subway. That's what they're doing around the perimeter of the court. I'm showing Doug, so for anybody else, you're not going to see this. But it's actually, it mimics a lot of that subway style, the way you see when you're checking on the lines and where you're headed to. So just another example of how they're tying it into the community. So
have you read that or you just figured that out?
I just figured that out with my eyes.
You should look that up. That's so smart. We should put that on Reddit. Okay. Any final things here? I feel like we covered a lot of stuff. I think we're definitely gonna start ramping up our coverage now as we get into preseason. We already have a couple cool things on tap for the season. A couple of crossover podcasts already in the works. One with the Knicks one for the second game of the year with Knicks Film School that we have on the calendar right now to kind of get ready. With Jonathan Macri and those guys that do a great job with the Knicks. So we'll get ready to talk that.
And we'll also be checking in again. I had done the crossover episode with Adam Tyler on the Celtic Center podcast. So we're going to be checking in with him before the Nets and Boston meet up during the regular season as well. So a lot of exciting crossover stuff we're doing on Overtime.
A lot of this is through the Overtime Media Network, which we're really excited to be on. It's already brought on a bunch of great opportunities that we kind of had a feeling was going to happen when we came on with Overtime, and those are already starting to bear themselves out. So if you want to follow any of the other podcasts, you go to overtime.media, and that's the website. You can see the list of all the other podcasts, like my fantasy football podcast is over there, fantasy basketball as well. In the meantime, if you want to help this show out, there's a bunch of easy things you can do, and they really mean a lot to us. One, you go over to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. You rate and review the podcast, and you hit subscribe so you get those automatic downloads. We really, really appreciate that to see the numbers trend up. Totally free for you. They mean a lot for us. Also, engage with us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all We Got Nets. Very easy to remember. Go over and like the page, follow along with what we got going on over there, and that stuff will begin to ramp up even more as the season goes on as well. All that stuff is totally free to do and really, really means a lot from us. I know I'm going to be editing this podcast. You are going to go jump in the pool. This will be up. We'll be back again next week from another probably half-disclosed location somewhere in the other side of the world before we get back to the States. Buddy, in the meantime, we'll be following all the news and notes around the Nets. See you in the pool.
outside in Bali. Got it. You know the change happened. I'll remember.
Just write it down. Just in case. Just
tell me the exact number of seconds you need.
Is that happened before? He's had like a couple face fractures.
Yeah.
Just in case. Just in case.
I have an internal clock like all from memory, Dougster.
You did it.
All from memory.
You got it. But first, the theme music. Couldn't get there. Damn it.
You got that one to the face. That's good news because it means they're going hard in practice. I was like, what the heck is going on around? Just tell me.
Be a little more careful.
Right, yeah. I'm sure no one in the court was like, that's right. We go hard, Kyrie.
Hard around here.